everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Um, we interview a lot of people that are working in the justice system or working with people that are in the system. But by far, I think that our best interviews involve those whose lives and character have been transformed, and in part due to being involved with the justice system and prisons. And I was just thinking today that, Jesus talks about leaving the 99 sheep out in the open and to go find the missing one. And then he says to rejoice when that wayward one is found. Well, why? Why rejoice? Because redemption is worth rejoicing over. And because those who have found redemption have so much wisdom to teach the rest of us. Those who have found redemption often make important changes to the world. Just think about Moses and Paul, and there's a few others in the Bible that David, who definitely had redemption play a huge part in their future. So tonight, Byron Alexander is with us, and he has a redemption story. We also have Kaye and who was one of Byron's Christian Science chaplains while incarcerated, and also Marshall Reddick, who is his angel team leader. And first off, I'd just like to thank the three of you for being here with us. And let's start with you, Byron. And why don't you just kind of tell us, where you grew up and a little bit about what your life was like growing up.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Byron Alexander, and I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, born and raised on the West Side originally, in the pretty much gang and drug infested area that's pretty well known throughout the world because it was one of the epicenters of gang violence and drugs and prostitution. So I lived like pretty much on a street that was like one of the main strips where the gang members and the drug dealers used to hang out, practically right in front of my house. And being a product of that environment, it was a trickle down effect from my brother, my eldest brother, my it's four of us all together. Both of my brothers joined gangs at a very young age. My cousins. So it was like I was pretty much uh gonna be a product of my environment. So I
So you're like
grew up.
being groomed in a way just by the
Yes,
environment itself.
pretty much being groomed and pretty much is just even though my mom, she tried, but to have to go out and go to work and leave you home around that, and then you go to school, it's the same thing. It's gang talk and what happened last night on their block. So it's like you can't escape the conversations of murder, the conversations of beat up, someone getting beat up, a prostitute being raped or overdose. So that's pretty much all you hear all day long at a young
Yeah.
age. So when you
Wow.
do become older, which by the age of 12, that was the first time I ended up inside of a juvenile hall facility, and that's pretty much because of where I grew up at. So
Yeah.
from the age of 12 up until 48 years old, I've been in and out of prisons. I've been in pretty much any juvenile facility, juvenile hall, YA. I've been to state prison once. I've been to federal prison, and I've been back to state prison. So
Mm.
and I've always been growing up. I've always been introduced to church. I've always know who God is, but I never took it serious because growing up, church was more so a punishment. It was used as a punishment in my home, to where
Wow.
if you did got was bad in school, you was threatened with, I'm gonna send you to church on the weekend. So it was not a
Oh,
it,
that's,
it was not a good experience. So when I got older, I didn't want to go to church because of the experience of what church was to me as a little kid. And
mm,
that's pretty much all of my friends. the same thing. You was only sent to church as a punishment. You wasn't sent to church for the to learn about God. But if you was open to what you was learning, then yeah, you learned. But most of the time you went with a negative outlook on it because of what it was used as.
Mhm.
So
Are you saying that people there didn't want to see you, or they didn't feel love for you, or
no,
what was?
the churches that I experienced as a child, the church was more of a, it was more of a gossip.
Mm,
It wasn't full of the spirit. It was just a place where you hear all of who cheated on who, the pastor sleeping with different people in the church, his
mm,
brother sells drugs right next door at the house next door to the church. So
mm,
when you look at the church, you're looking at the church as this is nothing more than a uh, what's the word I can use for it? It's nothing more than it looks. You look nice at church. You dressed up, but it's not. You're not getting your spirit fed.
mm.
It's pretty much it's a house of gossip, not a house of worship.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, um, what was the prison culture like for you? I mean, everybody has a different experience in prison. I just curious to know how
Well,
how did the prison change you and your point of view about life?
well, honestly, because I went to a juvenile hall and started off in prison at a young age, it just turned me into a criminal pretty much. Prison didn't juvenile hall, it didn't do anything good for me. It just made me a better criminal. Because of the mind state and the environment, the only thing that you're around are people talking about what they're going to do better, how they're going to commit the crime better versus not committing the crime at all.
Yeah.
And
So
so
you're
at a,
saying that from your experience, prison was really kind of like schooling. It was
yes,
in its own way, and that's how can I do this better? How can I get away with it? How can I whatever? How do I
yes.
avoid the police? I mean, you're saying that that's kind of your experience, what
Yes,
you
it teaches
experienced.
you how to become a better criminal.
Wow.
And then and the only way that changes is like when I got older, and it's like being participating in the gang, participating in the riots that happen for racial reasons of whatnot. It's like you tend to grow old of
Mm,
being in those situations. So the
mm,
last time I got out of prison, I've always been the type of person that if I'm offered a job or I'm offered something that's bettering myself for the time being, I'm gonna okay, I'll accept the job. But it's only when you say, okay, this job doesn't pay because you could go do a crime and get fast money.
yeah,
That's what usually creates the revolving door, because it's like
yeah.
you have that mentality. You get it how you know how to get it. You live how you
Hmm.
get it how you live, and that's all you know.
Mm. Were you in a gang in prison?
No, I was in a gang before prison.
So you didn't stay in a gang while in prison for
Yes,
safety, security reasons.
I stayed in a gang actually up until 2008.
Okay.
2008 is when I
Yeah.
pretty much, because I was tired of because you're in a gang and because you're always involved in somebody else's problem because you're part of that gang. So because you're
Hmm.
part of that gang, now his
Hmm.
dope debt is your problem.
Hmm.
His getting into it with a guy on the basketball court is your problem because
Mm,
he's your homeboy. And a lot of times, just because they know you can fight or they know that you're going to help them, a lot of times they get it themselves into something that drags you into it.
hmm. So you're just basically expected to have somebody's back.
Yes, and that's the downside of when you get older,
Mm,
your mind starts to change. Like, I'm getting too old for this crap.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay, well, I'm going to just kind of jump over to something that to me is amazing from given your background. and how steep that was that you were in it. How is it that how in the world did you come up and find Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures? Who introduced that to you?
Well, honestly, um, someone close to me had died, and I was in Orange County Jail fighting a case, looking at the rest of my life in prison, and they have these slips called cop out slips, and it has different boxes on there to check if you want to like see the chaplain and whatnot.
Yeah.
So honestly, by accident, I didn't know I checked the Christian Science box. I thought I just checked the box that said chaplain. So I put the slip in, and when 3 days later, they told me to go up to the visitation, and it was the like the spirit that was on me. Soon as I walked up there, and I seen my very first chaplain. Her name was Chaplain Diane, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget. It was kind of more so. I was thinking about past experiences that I had with chaplains, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna listen to her. She's gonna,
Mm-hmm.
pray for me, blah blah blah." But that was a total opposite of what happened.
What happened?
I walked up there and I sat down. She introduced herself, and then I'm like, "Oh well, I was trying to see a regular Protestant or a Baptist chaplain," and then she's like, "Well, what is it that you like to talk about? I'm here to I will talk to you." So she started talking to me. Then she asked, did I want to pray? Did I want to pray with her? And when she said the Lord's Prayer, the Christian Science version of the Lord's Prayer, I was like, that's something different.
Mm.
Feed the famished affections. She had put emphasis on that part of that
Mm.
prayer, and then she
Mm.
explained it to me.
Mm.
So she asked me, would I be interested in reading something? And I said, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind reading something. She says, well, you don't have to. It's strictly up to if you want to do it. I said, okay. She gives me a science and health book, and she asks me to read the chapter on animal magnetism,
Mm.
unmasked. And that right there, reading that, just instantly changed my whole outlook on, wow, I had this whole thing wrong.
Mm.
I've had the mind state of, because of where I grew up and how I grew up. But when I read that, that's what hit me. So I got interested in. I went when I she came back and saw me 2 days later. So I kept reading through the book when she only asked me to read animal magnetism.
Mm.
So
So she actually gave you the physical book, and you had
yeah,
the book.
she gave me the physical science and health book.
Okay.
So I ended up reading through it, and so I'm like, oh, okay. When she came back, I had a bunch of questions.
Mm.
And I
Like what? What was some of your questions? Can I ask?
well, I was like saying, so pretty much reading this book and discerning what it says, how it has keys to the scripture in there. So it's like a simpler way versus the Bible, versus it being put in this form and the titles. It was like, wait, I could practice this, and this can change. If I want to change my life, this book is key to changing my life, because it's it's when it says stand porter at your door of thought. That right
Mhm.
there to me was like the instant turning point on, okay, so all I have to do is filter my thoughts. Let God lead me,
Mm.
and make sure that I stay aware of what I take in daily. And that's when I started
Uh-huh.
stop talking negative gang talk with individuals. Stop talking about what I want to get out and do about committing another crime. So the guys started to notice the change in my conversation with them. I
So you're
stopped having
saying you just made a change cold turkey.
cold turkey,
You just
because
went, no more
it's
me, the old me,
no no
that me is a
no
gone me.
and then you know what it took me. It took me back to how from being a violent person and in gangs to where it's like I'm becoming a humble individual, a more respectful individual. But in jail, sometimes that doesn't work. You're looked at as being you becoming soft. So you have
Why
to,
is that a problem?
because in jail, when you're pretty much in a gang and a part of a gang, you tend to start being looked at when you become part of a Christian. Say you're becoming a Christian. Now you're looking at, oh, you're just doing that because you're scared. You don't want to be in the gang no more. So you're trying to be a godly. Oh man, you're a buster. Or oh, they label you a certain way because
Hmm.
now you're no longer the violent negative person anymore. You want to be the Christ-like person, to where it's like you lose that for some of that respect you once had as being the gang member versus being the
Yeah,
man of God.
yeah. How did some of the other inmates? How did they then started talking to you?
They disassociate themselves from you.
Oh,
But the
really?
one, but the ones that, yeah, because it goes around that, oh man, he on some coward stuff. He don't want to be a part of us. He think he better than us now because he's talking that God stuff and all this and that. So if you tell him, hey, look, don't come around me. If you can't talk positive, I don't want to talk negative anymore. So if you can't talk positive, I don't want that stuff around me. And now it's like,
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, I got somebody question. Uh, how did you start behaving? Forget the talk. How did you just start behaving
I
that made
started
somebody
I
like go, uh-oh, this guy's for real now?
because they started to see me with my Bible and my science and health book out at the table in the day room reading and studying. So
Mm,
a couple of the guys would come over and be like, "Oh man, you really into that?" Because I'm not over here talking to you while you guys. I'm part of the main conversation at one time. Now I'm over off to myself, and they see my walk. They see
mm,
how I'm changing my day to day, to where now they're actually, oh yeah, this is for real. And then I started going out to the Saturday morning services that they
mm,
were having. So now they're like, oh yeah, this is he's
mm.
changing. He's not even talking the way that he once talked.
Really? That's amazing to me that you've had that experience. So what was it about your old life or the old Byron that you just didn't want to have anything to do with anymore? If you could just say, this is before, this is after.
Well, the getting up, going out, standing on the street corner with five, six, seven, eight, nine guys standing around doing nothing, being a basically a billboard or a moving target for your enemies when they want to come by and shoot at you.
Yeah.
It's like you start to think about, like, is that what my life is that what I was put here to do? No.
Mm,
So I'm it's like I started saying, hey, if I'm a part of God's will, well, I'm interested in seeing exactly what this is all about. It's like the blessing, the reward versus the
mm,
being out, coming back and forth to jail. I'd rather
yeah.
be free and not have to look over my shoulder than to be in jail for the rest of my life doing what I want versus, well, why not try God's way?
Mm,
And the
yeah.
more that I try God's way, the more I instantly start to see that there is no bad days as far as getting myself into other people's being drug into other people's situations. I'm
Mm,
my own man pretty much now. I'm not the gang member to where other people's problems are my problems.
wow. So you basically just kind of got tired of your old self and
Yes.
just said, I'm done with you.
I'm done with the old self, and I'm waking up to this new self every day. And that's the thing where it's the renewing of the mind daily. That's how I started off practicing that scripture every day, to where, okay, where did I fall short yesterday? So I won't make that mistakes today. And I
Give me
started
two
taking.
seconds. I gotta plug my computer in. So keep talking. You're on.
So I just took more. I just started cursing less. Started using less less of my old language, and pretty much the guys started to see, oh yeah, he's not the same person anymore. He's not the same guy he used to be. So after a while, those guys started to see that, and now they want to come. Hey, come on, let's go to church. You can go to church with me, because a lot of guys, a lot of guys, they don't want you to look at them a certain way. So I'll tell them, all right, well, look, just come to church with me. You don't got to take no Bible or nothing. Just come and just hear what they have to say. Read the lesson.
Mm.
So, okay, one person came. Then when he came back and he spread the word, oh, it ain't that bad. They do all the reading. And that's another thing. A lot of guys, they don't have education like that. So they can't read. So being read to is another thing. That's a main uh thing in jail. A lot of guys can't read. So they feel embarrassed about going to church because they don't want to be picked or called upon to have to read something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in Christian Science, we have
Mm-hmm.
readers. So that's the awesome part about Christian Science inside of jails.
Mm. I wanted to say somewhere along the line, I know you had a couple of different chaplains that you had met with, but we have Chaplain Kaye is here. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you meet her? And, how did that come about? And I'd just love to hear the story about how you two met.
Okay.
And then I'll have her tell her side.
I was working with Chaplain Diane and Chaplain George, and I was scheduled to go up to prison, but I for some reason I didn't go up to prison because the lawyer that I had was like, no, we're not taking the deal. We're gonna go to trial. So instead of me going up to prison right then, I didn't take the deal, and we ended up going to trial. But in the end, but because Chaplain George didn't want me to be without a chaplain in case I left, if I took the deal and I didn't see him before I took that deal, he said he wanted to get me a corresponding chaplain before I went up to prison. And that's how I got in touch with. I was given Chaplain Kate's the address to the corresponding chaplains up, and that's when I wrote to her.
Yeah.
And just so happened, I didn't know I was going to get Chaplain Kate. I just wrote, and that's how I was. She was. God was watching over me.
Yeah. So Chaplain Kaye, you're there, right? Unmute if you are muted.
Okay, there we go.
There you are. Okay, good. Good to hear your voice. So what was your first impression of Byron? This is a fascinating journey he's been on. What was your first impression of meeting him?
Well, I was impressed. Chaplain Diane had done a good job with Byron, getting him informed about Christian Science. And when I met Byron, he was already committed to sharing Christian Science. He seemed to know that this was his path, this was his calling. And he was so eager to get things that he could share with the other brothers. He was always looking for something to share.
So what character traits or what's even issues did he want to focus on in his work with you? If you could divulge any of that.
Well, it seems to me that he just had a real deep concern for his brothers there. And he wanted them to learn and feel some of the things he was feeling, to feel better about themselves, to get closer to God. He saw there was such a great need for that. And he seemed to see that as his calling, that was his purpose, was to share as much as he could, because he was always so grateful for everything that I sent him. And he would read it to the other fellows, and it was really inspiring.
Well, that's amazing. What a great story here. Byron, I just want to get back to you for a second here. And while you were meeting with Chaplain Kaye and reading Science and Health, did you ever give yourself any assignments? It sounds like you did. And if so, what were those assignments that might have, just help you to move your life forward at a faster clip?
I wanted to absorb as much as Christian Science and science and health as I could, because I wanted to show my fellow brothers that's in gangs and pretty much come from where I come from, or they were just like me and came from different parts of the city, to where I wanted to show them that if I can do it, you can do it. And it's all in what, if you wanting it to change. If you say you want to change, here, check out this book, and
Mm,
I'm gonna show you. Read this first, just how I was introduced to science and health. That's how I introduce brothers to science and health. I asked them to read Animal Magnetism to get them started. Then I'll tell them to go to because a lot of guys, they're looking at a lot of time. So I say, well, hey, maybe you need to learn the better way of praying and asking God. And I'll tell them to
mm,
read the chapter on prayer.
yeah.
And
It,
it's one thing that I would say that the corresponding chaplains that I've been blessed with, mostly chaplain Kate, is she always was very good at sending hymns and articles out of the sentinels and the journals, to where exactly the path in which we were headed with the fellas, she always sent. It's as if she was God had her as a part of the plan from the very beginning, because she always sent what was needed step by
yeah.
step without me having to ask her for it. And it was just awing to me how
Mm,
spiritually in tune she would
mm,
be with us and the fellas like that.
yeah. What were you learning that God was that maybe you didn't know when you were a child?
That he is divine love, and that he is all in all, and that there's nothing too big for you to ask of him. To If you give him the chance, he will be there for you. That he is exactly who he say he is.
Yeah, amen.
And it's just pretty much having the
Mm,
faith, having the faith
mm,
and growing the faith to believe. And this is one of the biggest problems I feel, especially with me coming from to get out my own way.
yeah. Oh, really? How did that happen? How did you come about that?
When I got tired of getting in my way and seeing the end result. The end result is I end up in jail with
Mm,
time and doing a lot of time. And it's like, I'm only 48 years old, but I've done over 32 years in prison, in
mhm,
jails.
mm, mm. How did you finally get out?
Well, I was looking at a 25 to life sentence under the three strikes. But because of the crime that I was accused of committing, was some check cashing robberies throughout California. A guy that I was cool with, grew up with, he was doing the robberies, and I know a lot of people, so he would take pictures of the jury that would be in the check cashing places, because they say we buy gold. So what he would do is he would take pictures of the gold and send it to me, because I had a fence that would buy the gold. So lo and behold, they do like 5 robberies. On the 5th robbery, he drops his cell phone. So when he drops his cell phone, the cops get the cell phone and they look through the cell phone and they see the pictures and the text messages coming to me. So they
Mm,
automatically assumed that I'm part of the robbery crew itself, which,
mm,
worst case scenario, I should have only been convicted of receiving stolen property. But they charged it as a conspiracy. And so as the case went on, my lawyer was like, well, wait a minute. They're saying you were there, you were doing this. There's no evidence of you having been there. There's evidence
mm,
of, yeah, you was associated with the guy. So let's say we go to trial. If they don't want to take you to trial for receiving stolen property, we'll take the deal. for receiving stolen property. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to charge me with the robbery itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as time went on, it came out the cops was lying because they kept trying to say that I was there, that I was a main person in the robbery. Then they went from, oh, he was planning the robbery, he wasn't the guy going in. So they kept changing the story around when the evidence didn't fit. Lo and behold, I did a couple of motions before trial. One mainly a pitches motion to say the cops was lying and they falsified evidence. My case went on. I went to trial. The judge even discovered that, oh, well, we know he wasn't there. So she gave me 2 years plus 2 5-year nickel priors, which was 12 years. The case went on appeal. I ended up beating the case on appeal, but I had already served the time. And I just went to court a couple weeks ago since I've been out and had that case resolved because they said I was convicted of a robbery, and it wasn't robbery. It was receiving stolen property. Now, the case that's in Ventura, they're kind of pissed about the fact that I was still fighting and saying that your officers are lying. So I'm still going back and forth with those guys over in Ventura, but it's in God's hands. And so far, man can't beat God. So I'm just staying the course on that case, and letting God, he knows what the end will be. So I'm staying prayerful and continuing to do his will.
It's a long, roundabout way. But you're out, and that's the important thing. And I want to bring in here Brother Marshall. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
All right, absolutely. So how did you find out about Byron, and how did the two of you get in touch?
Okay, well, David,
let me just back up. Byron, just so I reintroduce you again, you are his angel team leader, and you can explain what all that is, but just wanted people to know that that's what your job is.
All right. Well, I learned about your program and angel teams when you came to San Juan Capistrano Church about over a year ago, and you said that you were looking for teams to be put together. And I've always felt that the prison system had so many faults and so many people, about 80% go back to prison. And I thought there must be a better way. And so I called you right after the meeting and said, I'm in. I said, I can put together a team with our church. And we really had a connection because we both went through class with Paul Stark-Seeley. And at any rate, you said that you didn't get very many in Orange County and might not get some for a while. So I just kind of put it aside, thinking that it might not go anywhere. And so lo and behold, you talked to Paul Garman of our church and told him that there was a individual that just got out of prison and he wanted to come to Wednesday evening meeting. And Paul called me. And he thought, well, it's in Orange County. I'm in Orange County. It can't be that far to be able to bring Byron to church that Wednesday evening meeting. So I got on my pants. It was 6 o'clock when I got the text and jumped in the car and checked. And it was going to be an hour and 45 minutes to get there by toll road because he was up in Anaheim. And so at any rate, as I was driving there, mortal mind kind of tried to come in and say, boy, what have you gotten yourself into? Are you going to be safe? I mean, there were all kinds of mortal mind suggestions running through my mind. And then I caught that, and angel thoughts started to come to me, and God said, it'll be just fine. You don't have to worry. It's going to work out well. So when I arrived, church had already started. And so I thought I'll take him out to dinner because I really wanted to find out what his needs were and get to know him. And he had already eaten, so he invited me into his motel, and we sat down. And he began to share with me his experiences and his goals and his dreams and so forth. Because I asked him, I said, well, how can I help? And at any rate, he told me what his needs are, and realized this, that basically a parolee gets out of jail, they're given $200 and supposed to be able to then figure out what to do. And immediately he said, I don't want to go back to where I came from because I'll end up back in jail or prison. And so he had one more night, basically in the motel, and then he would be homeless. And so at any rate, I just decided, committed to him and to myself that that was not going to happen. And I found in talking to him a very humble, kind, loving, and most importantly, really great Christian Scientist. And my heart went out to him. I think we bonded that evening. And basically, I just committed to do anything I could to make sure that he found a job and found direction and was successful. And it's just been an incredible experience.
Yeah, you've done a really good job. I want to ask Byron. Byron,
Yes, sir.
come back. What was church like for you?
Well,
How
it
would
was
you describe it?
it was one of the most awesome spiritual atmospheres, full of love. It was genuine. Every from the first time I went, it's just it just changed me to show that people truly genuinely care and love you because they see you as a God's child. They don't see me as the criminal I once was. They didn't see me that way. And that's the thing about other religions and other people. They see you as the criminal. Well, oh, God is working on you, and like as if you got to get to a certain point and then you're going to get accepted. I didn't experience that with this church. I experienced the love and the family environment from the moment I stepped into the church.
What's your relationship to the church right now?
Oh, I've actually joined the church. I'm a member of the church, and like I said, I anxiously look forward to Wednesdays and Sundays because of the love and the way that I get fed spiritually being there. It's an awesome feeling, and I can feel the love growing every time that I go. I leave feeling more love than the last time I was there, and I'm so grateful for each and every member of the church being there for me and supporting me, and I look forward to continuing to be there and be a part of the church family.
Oh, it's fabulous. I got a question for all three of you. This will be the last question, okay? And then we're going to just turn it over to the audience. I'm sure that people here got questions that I didn't ask. So, what's been the most important lesson for each of you in this chapter of your lives?
Well, I'll just start. You know, I'm retired. I was a college professor for 30 years at Cal State LA, and I was happy retired, but I just felt that God had something else in store for me and is God's plan for me. And this has just opened up a whole new area in my life. Basically, I was an only child, and now I have a brother. And so it's just wonderful to have him in my life. And it's just totally changed my perception. And I'm so grateful now for the freedom that I have had and the wonderful opportunities I've had, and marvel at Byron's way of, he's got a job now, he's got a place to live, he's thinking about becoming a handyman. I mean, his goals are lofty. He wants to be able to hire people for out of prison and teach them to be a handyman. I mean, this is going to go far, and it could change the whole prison system, quite frankly.
Well,
Well,
I hope so. Yeah, I hope it will, because the system is really backwards with a lot of things.
Okay. Well, it's Chaplain Kate again.
Yeah,
Okay.
The experience with Byron, it has just been so rewarding. I love getting his letters. He was so inspirational, all the good he was doing, all the sharing he was doing. It made me so happy. Sometimes he'd say at night when the lights went out, he would share some spiritual words with the other fellas. And I thought, well, that's the best thing in the world, that the last thing they hear maybe at night is a prayer. And it just made me so grateful to be a part of bringing people closer to God. I feel that's our mission. And as a chaplain, I get to be a part of that. And I'm so grateful. And of course, Byron, oh, is just such a dear person and has
Mm.
taken his work sharing God so seriously. It's just so inspiring to see.
thank you. You're doing a great job. Byron, you got the last word.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the blessing of helping me become a better Christian Scientist, because you've been awesome, Chaplain Kate, as far as being a shepherd. And I know that I am the person that I am today because of you, as far as me overall, meaning I didn't go back into the streets, and I'm focused
Mm.
on becoming, as you say, I want to take class, go to class instruction, and I just want to be I want to be, I honestly want to be just like you, Chaplain Kate, because I want to be able to go back, not just be a corresponding chaplain, but I also want to go back into the jails and teach and be able to help the brothers, as well as when they get out of there. I want to be able to help, as my good brother Marshall said, I want to open up a business and have a business so I can help, as well as teach them Christian Science, help them with Christian Science. I want to be able to help them with jobs as well, because I want to pay forward the blessing that I've been given. I want to return it to people that because I know that's what God would want me to do. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
want to thank you for you've been a blessing, Brother David, as well, because if it wasn't for Fully Embraced, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, and I wouldn't have met my good brother, Brother Marshall. Brother
Yeah.
Marshall, you have been, you've been a angel in itself, because
Mm.
you've given me so much study material to help me better myself. I'm forever grateful for you, because it's like I'm becoming the man that I am, and when I look at the person that I'm becoming, I can't help but think of you, because you've been
Mm.
truly a blessing and a inspiration for as far as educating me, and I truly genuinely appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate all of the rest of the Angel team members that have been fully supportive of me in my journey, and just the genuine love that they give to me every time I see them at church. So that's pretty much,
Yeah.
I'm just humbled.
I love the fact that you have an angel team church. That's very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm going to turn this over to Gabriel so he can kind of, he can kind of guide us to the end of this, which is now it's time for anybody that's got a question for anybody that we've been talking to just go ahead and raise your hand and ask.
Yep. All right, Eleanor.
Byron, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
I'm fascinated. I volunteer in a men's prison in Texas, and your story is similar to a lot of the men that I minister to, but I've never spoken with anyone who has been in a gang and then come out of a gang, and I'm just fascinated that your fellow gang members accepted your change of heart based on what they observed of your sincerity. And I just love that story. Was there any difficulty in convincing them that you were sincere?
Yes, you always are going to have those that want you to stay a part of the negativity, because that old saying, misery loves company.
Mhm.
But then you have the brothers that are older, that themselves, they've gotten out of the gang and changed. They support your decision. But you're gonna always have the especially like the youngsters, you're gonna always have that. And that's why I'm glad that I don't go around. I don't have to be a part of that, but I will minister to them because of the love that I have for them. It's the saying, "Oh, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do." Because
Right.
if they knew what they were truly doing to themselves, I believe they would want to change.
Mhm.
To, Rachel and Mark, or unless I've Eleanor, did you have one other?
Well, I've got a lot, but that's good. I'll go on to somebody else.
Okay. Rachel and Mark, tuning in from Hawaii.
Aloha. Thank you so much for your story, Byron.
You're welcome.
I wondered if you've had a chance to hear any of the replays of Embrace Fully, or have you met Troy Span in these calls?
No, I haven't. But I've watched all of the videos, but I have not met anyone. No, not yet.
So, have you seen his video or his interview? Because it's on the Embrace Fully site somewhere. You'll see it. Headline is "I was supposed to die in prison."
Mm-hmm.
He's got a very similar story where he was in a gang and he served 30 years, and he's also doing tremendous work, amazing work. I think his company is called Urban Alchemy, and he ministers to the people on the streets and helps them, helps meet their needs and helps them get off the streets, I think. And he also helps with mediation. So literally the LA Police Department, they work with his company, and so now they help in that way. So it seems to me that you guys would enjoy each other's friendship and bond. And I also wanted to recommend that you watch, listen to the story that is my dad's story, Robert McVeigh. He, Gabriel can post the link in the chat. He was also our dad served time in prison, and he was so touched by Christian Science that he wanted to also become a chaplain. And in order to be a chaplain, you can't have a felony record. So my dad wrote to the governor, and the governor pardoned him, and then he was a chaplain for several years, I think. So yeah, it's good work. Anyway, my mom and Gabriel can comment more on that, but both of those stories I think you would like to hear.
Okay, I'll check them out. Thank you.
So you'll search, do a Google search of Share the Practice.
Yeah,
and
so Rachel, I posted the link into the chat actually directly to it.
Great.
So,
thank you for posting that link.
yep, as well as a link to our past video recordings for anybody who would be interested to also review them. Kathy, let's go to you, and then we'll go to Marilyn.
Okay, this is for both Marshall and Byron. Can you tell us about the kinds of things that the Angel team did to support Byron?
Okay, well, I'll start. The Angel team is made up of a number of different individuals, and we have a practitioner. Richard is able to act as one of our practitioners. Phyllis is an observer, and we had dinner with her, and then she's been instrumental in going to the Irvine Church and getting help in finances. And then the rest of the congregation has, I ran out of money after a while. We had to be in a motel for a couple of weeks before he found something. And so they've been very, very helpful in providing funds to help Byron. And so the Angel team is crucial. And again, remember, he got out of jail with $200 and the clothes on his back and a box of Christian Science literature. That's all he had. And so that he has to rebuild his life and have a place to stay. We basically were able to get his car back and get it insured. And so there's just a variety of things that you have to do so that he can become functional.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing that Byron got to participate in quite a few of those steps directly. I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very very helpful for as far as the resources. Like brother Marshall helped me with as far as for something as simple as looking up the DMV and making sure that I get to the DMV. I had a couple of court situations where I had to get on the train. Brother Marshall helped me with being able to. He looked it up to see which route would be best, which was very helpful as far as time wise, and being able to go to church, to and from church. I was able to get a ride with him, and he worked it out with our other good brother, to make sure that I was able to get to church. So that was the Angel team is very 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 needed for us when we get out, and the brothers that will come in behind me is and it's to be around how can I say a more mature in Christian Science member to help shore you up in certain areas where you may be a little because now you're in society. It's different than just being in your cell or being locked in a room and reading and studying. And Brother Marshall has been instrumental in making sure that I stay with enough literature to keep me busy, and also he's helped me along the way with goals, setting goals, and helped me. And Chaplain Kate as well has been continues to be instrumental in that as well, with making sure that I stay spiritually fed.
Awesome. Let's go, Marilyn.
Thank you so much for being here, for your wonderful expression. We are so pleased and proud of all your progress. I'm a fourth generation Christian Scientist, and you said something that was very profound that touched my heart. And it was the statement of getting ourselves out of the way. I'm an artist, and that's a key to my expression. And all artists, every individual that expresses God, our own unique individuality. And you got it spot on. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
Wishing you
welcome.
lots of progress and love ahead.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Susan Anderson, I see your hand up.
I too want to thank you, Byron. I'm so grateful for your honesty and humility expressed. I'm wondering how you have managed to work out understanding cell phones and computers.
Oh, that would be my good brother Marshall. Brother Marshall has helped me. Don't get me wrong. Like, we had basic tablets inside of prison.
Excellent.
But as far as the real time out in the real world, and Brother Marshall has been instrumental, and he helped me obtain a computer, and he pretty much printed out the steps of how to do things. So that's a key part of having an angel team, because if you don't have an angel team or someone willing to help you, you will be doomed.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could I just mention something that was so touching is that one of his female friends was so impressed with his change that she wanted to come to church, and she brought a friend, and her friend brought a 10-year-old daughter. And the church just loved that. We just loved to welcome them. And I just thought that was so wonderful that he had such a great influence on those around him.
That is a pretty awesome ripple effect there. Paul, I see your hands up.
Yes, we're all so proud. We at San Juan Capistrano are so proud of Byron and his journey and his growth, and it's just a joy to support him. Byron, I don't know that you mentioned that you have a job, that you were hired back at your old job and you're now working, and he made a big deal about not working on Wednesday nights so he could be at church on Wednesday nights. Or I think one time he worked round the clock on Sunday mornings, he works all night Saturday and then comes to church without going to bed because he works all night long. So his dedication to church is so dear and so inspiring to all of us. So Byron, you're such a blessing to our church.
Thank you. The church has been a blessing and continues to be a blessing to me in my spiritual journey.
Awesome. Looks like we might have time. Oh, go ahead.
I can't raise my hand. Can I ask a question from the phone?
Yep, go ahead.
You read the chapter Animal Magnetism Unmasked, and some of that is not easy to read, some of the vocabulary. Can you tell us a little bit about your reading background and your schooling?
Well, my schooling is pretty much all based from prison, and it comes from self-teaching in reading and rereading and asking for spiritual discernment in what I'm reading to get out of it, so I can practice it. And so that's pretty much God giving me the ability to be able to read it and practice it in my daily walk.
Thank you.
Maybe we have time for about one more question or comment. And
just one more thing.
Go ahead.
One comment, Byron. That's so telling to me that you have always had a desire to learn. I mean, that's who you really are. All the rest of it really is, it's the mask. And it's so telling that, in a sense, not that you ever wanted to be in prison, but it enabled you to dig in and study more. So if to be grateful for that part of prison anyway.
Yeah, I made a comment the other day in one of my testimonies how I'm the difficulties of being in prison and being it's quiet, you have a quiet time versus being out in the real world with all of the pollutions, the noises and the different conversations that you overhear. And so it's to live and study and find time to study. That's the real test is now.
Yeah. What would you say? It seems like to me there needs to be more community support somehow. It is not police necessarily, but more recognition of what communities need.
And I feel which is what I want to do. I want to actually do street ministry and actually go into the communities and just how, well, okay, read this chapter and
Yeah.
tell me what you get out of it, and
Yeah.
stand around with a small group of individuals and
Mhm.
for an hour or so, and then next week go to a different neighborhood and just pull up and get out at the McDonald's, get out at the liquor store,
Yeah.
and and that's what it's been put on my spirit to do. So that's pretty much. And I've been working with a few group of homeless people over where I used to stay at the hotel because I used to see them all the time. So I'll give them, after I'm done with the Bible lesson, I'll pass the Bible lesson along to those guys. So
Wonderful.
I try to be the disciple that I can be.
Do you know about Homeboy Industries?
Yes.
Because in a sense, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing in a way. But having connection with them might be an interesting, thing too. Anyway, all the best.
So we have a couple more hands up here. David on David's iPhone.
Yeah, hey, Byron. Listen, man, it's awesome to finally meet you. I'm in a church group with Kaye called Medeville, and so we've been following your story for quite some time, and I'm really grateful to speak with you face to face. Yeah. So first, congratulations on not only seeing the light but being the light, and that's a big distinction. And just real quick, man, I'm not making comparisons, but I had my own bout with the justice system last year, and I was wondering if you have a particular passage from the Bible or Science and Health, or maybe a lecture on YouTube that's kind of your go-to.
One of my favorite is 340 in the Science and Health. And if you go to 340, and it says 340, the one that goes, "There shall have no other gods before me." The first commandment is my favorite text. It demonstrates Christian sciences. It collates the triunity of God's spirit mind. It signifies that man shall have no other spirit or mind but God, eternal good, and that all men shall have one mind. The divine principle of the first commandment based the science of being, by which man demonstrates health, holiness, the life eternal, one infinite God, good, unifies man and nation, constitutes the brotherhood of man, ends wars, fills the scripture, love thy neighbor as thyself, annihilates pagan and Christian idolatry. Whatever is wrong in social, civil, criminal, political, and religious codes equalizes the sexes, annuls the curse on man, and leaves nothing that can sin, suffer, be punished, or destroyed. And that's pretty much my go-to when I'm speaking to people nowadays, because of what's going on in the world and right out here on some of these street corners and in the community.
Amen, brother. I love it. If I can make one recommendation, it's to watch John Benson Step Out of Your Story into Healing on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
It changed my life.
Check it out.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you. John Benson.
Karen, I saw your hand was up next.
Yes, having worked in a juvenile lockup facility, I know there are no rehabilitative programs that seem to be working. They more or less just house the youth. And I think it would be important to you in your street ministry that you go to maybe the Boys and Girls Club and talk about the gang activity and what's going on and how to get rid of it, how to help it, I think going to the youth needs to be done.
Yes, that's
Thank
part
you
of
so
it.
much
Yes.
for all that you are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why don't we wrap it up there? Thank you so much, Byron. Thank you,
Thank you
David,
guys for
for
having me.
a great
Hey.
interview. Thank you to all 95 we had 99 people on the interview tonight, which is pretty cool on a Thursday night.
I think Brother Paul's trying to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Brother Paul, I think he's trying to say something.
No, he just has his hand up. Oh.
Yeah, Gabe, if I could just put in a plug, I think you might have mentioned at the beginning, but Byron mentioned that he was given help and support from Embrace Fully when he first came out, and that all takes funding. And so maybe those on the call that don't know about how to contribute to your work can just be reminded that they can make contributions, and that's the contributions that you use to get people cell phones and to get people, gives them cash when they get out and so forth. And it's so important that you be funded with all you guys are doing.
Thank you so much for that plug, Paul. I put the link to our donate page. If you or your church or your association is able to make a one-time or recurring donation, tremendously helpful. It is tax deductible, and you'll see that it all kind of goes through the principal foundation. So thanks for that, Paul. And we really appreciate as well, I believe your church has made a contribution in the past to Embrace Fully, as well as hosted our conference in our first year, which was super awesome. So thank you for
Our
all
pleasure.
thank you, everybody. Our
for
next Angel Team meeting will be on Thursday. Let's get the date. It'll be Thursday,
20th.
February 20th. And we are kind of in these meetings talking about how can we practically help people like Byron, as well as other people who are still on the inside. We also have check-ins from chaplains. It's a pretty cool workshop style meeting. And I will say I will have the kind of the ticketing available for the conference very soon. But again, please do pencil it in on your calendar if you would like to attend. I've been reviewing the videos from last year's conference, and we will be getting those out very soon for those, anybody who wants to kind of see what it was like last year. So thanks again, everybody. Have
Thank
a good
you
night.
for having us. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Byron.
God bless.
Good to see you.
Everybody. Bye.
Byron, you should check out the chat. A lot of comments for you there.
Talk to you soon, Chapter Kate.
Yeah.